This week on It's Only a Movie, we're going to be continuing our October horror film list with 1979's The Amityville Horror. Directed by Stuart Rosenberg and based on Jay Anson's book of the same name, The Amityville Horror was released in 1979. The film stars James Brolin, Margot Kidder, and Rod Steiger. It tells the story of the Lutz family, who allegedly experienced paranormal occurrences inside their house in Amityville, New York. It was the same house where Ronald DeFeo Jr. had committed mass murder of his family in 1974. James Brolin was a very successful actor in the 1970s. He had starred in Westworld in 1973, The Car in 1977, and Capricorn 1 in 1978. He's probably going to be most recognizable to viewers of this channel as PW at the end of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. You know, at the end of the movie where Pee-wee plays the bellhop and there's the very handsome guy with the beard, tall dude, you know, like they do in every Hollywood movie where they're telling you the true story, and then you always see like a much handsomer version of the actual person that this happened to. That's James Brolin at the end of the film. Margot Kidder plays Kathleen Lutz. She was in a 1974 movie Black Christmas, which was a horror film, maybe one of the first slasher movies if you want to look at it that way. But she's probably going to be most recognizable as playing Lois Lane in the 1978 Superman movie. That Superman movie was huge. That was like the first real comic book movie when it came out. And that's, I think, where probably most people will recognize her from. Rod Steiger is an actor you're probably going to most recognize if you're into any kind of classic film from 1967's In the Heat of the Night, where he played Chief Bill Gillespie. In the Amityville Horror, he plays Father Francis Frank Delaney. The film had a budget of a little under $5 million and went on to gross over $80 million. And that's $80 million in 1979 dollars. So for American International Pictures, it was a very successful film. And to this day, it stands as being one of the most successful independent films ever made. I do want to warn you, there are some spoilers ahead. Because how can you talk about a movie without doing spoilers? And besides, the movie's like, 40-something years old. So the movie follows the story of George and Kathy Lutz, newlyweds who move into the house. Now, Kathy has 3 kids from her previous marriage. They kind of play into the movie, but it's mostly just the story of the horror of the house itself. Signs that things might not be as nice as they seem with the house start out when Kathy has Father Delaney come over to bless the house. In an upstairs room, he's attacked by a bunch of flies and a demonic voice tells him to get out. George, who apparently was a nice, kind, fun-loving guy, becomes more and more angry and aggressive toward the family. And he also is always cold. He's trying to keep the fire going at all times because he is just freezing in the house. Then other things start to happen. Some money goes missing in the house. Upstairs, babysitter while watching the children gets mysteriously locked in a closet that doesn't have a lock on it. Kathy witnesses these red demon-like eyes from outside the window that the daughter is telling her was Jody the pig that she saw. And slowly, the family starts to fall apart. When the father tries to call the house to warn them, anytime he gets a connection on the landline breaks up. They can't hear him. This is obviously well before cell phones, so landlines breaking up weren't unheard of, but it was pretty uncommon. George owned a land surveying business, but with the way that he's at home all the time, freezing and kind of freaking out, his business starts to suffer. Kathy starts visiting the library to research the property where the house was built. According to what she finds, the house was built on a Shinnecock burial ground, which was a Native American tribe in the area. Also, supposedly a man named John Ketchum lived on the land at one point. He was supposedly a satanic worshiper. She also finds out about the DeFeo murders that occurred in the house and finds that the picture of Ronald DeFeo holds a striking resemblance to George. Time goes on, the paranormal events just keep increasing. And then finally one night, there's a terrible thunderstorm. The walls are bleeding and there's slime coming out of stuff. And it's just, they decide at that point, we're getting out of here. They just run out with the clothes on their back, hop on the van, and drive away. And that's how the movie ends. Allegedly, they never returned to the house. They never went in to claim anything. They never went to get their furniture back, anything like that. Should be noted that, according to what I've read, the next family that moved into the house never had any issues. So it went from being a demonic hellscape to kind of a nice house for somebody, apparently. According to Stephen King and some other film scholars, they view the movie as pretty much just kind of a parable for the anxieties of home ownership. And as somebody who owns a house himself, I can tell you some of that's true. You buy a house and at first you're like, yay, I got it set. And then as time goes on, the roof starts leaking. You didn't really plan for that. So you got to put a roof on a house. And then the next thing you know, the next year, the HVAC system goes kaput. Then you got to replace that. You're burning through money, and it's scary. And then you go, what if I lose my job? Am I going to have enough money to keep saving the house? And then the water heater goes out. You got to deal with that. And then you got to get the driveway paved. Then there's some carpet that needs to be replaced. Then an appliance goes out. So that's the real horror of living in a house. It's the financial parts of home ownership that you don't see coming that will always come up to bite you. And what other way than to make some money on a deal that went bad is to maybe get a hold of somebody and write a book about a haunted house. And yeah, that'll work. Maybe we can do that. Maybe we can make some money that way. Actually, we can make probably a lot of money that way. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, the Amityville Horror is a horror film. It's a great horror film. Me, I love horror films, but I don't believe in ghosts or anything like that. So I'm a guy who doesn't believe in ghosts that loves horror films. I don't know if you can reconcile that with yourself. I know a lot of people like myself that are the same way with that. But as far as do I believe that anything at the Amityville Horror House actually happened? Nope. Because next people didn't have to deal with any slime, mysterious red room in the basement, or any blood on the walls, or what have you, involving the rest of the house. Now, I do have a personal story about this film being made, because while the Amityville Horror allegedly occurred in Amityville, New York, the exteriors of this film were shot in Ocean County, New Jersey, actually in Dover Township, Toms River to be specific. And night after night, me, my family, because it was being filmed kind of close to my grandma's house, we went like night after night to stand and watch the exteriors of this film being shot. We also witnessed a great Hollywood level tantrum one night. See, with the way, if you've ever been on set for an exterior filming location, especially when they're filming it in like a neighborhood or not on a back lot, but an actual neighborhood, you've got police barricades up, you got police holding people back, traffic is blocked off. And where they had all the trailers at for the stars, they were kind of lined up, and Brolin's was, the area where Brolin's was at was kind of toward the end of the trailer row. And everybody's just kind of hanging out, watching the movie being made. If you've ever been to a location where a movie's being made, it is slow and boring. I mean to tell you, nothing happens. Then a quick shot, and then nothing happens again for long periods of time. My dad was in the Army, and he said the Army was hurry up and wait. And that's kind of watching movie making. You hurry up and wait to watch what happens next. But anyway, some poor PA goes over to the trailer where Thanos' dad is at, knocks on the door, and it tells him he's, we're ready for you. And he screams, "I'm not coming out of this trailer until all these people are away." There's nobody around the trailer. Everybody's back behind the police barriers. This poor PA's, he's there like, there's nobody out here. We need you for the shot. But that's fairly enjoyable to witness, because it became a joke in our family for years after that. If you were in the bathroom and somebody knocked on the door, you didn't say, "I'm in here." You just yelled, "I'm not coming out until you get all those people away from my trailer." In the end, would I recommend it? Oh yeah, definitely. It's a good horror movie. First one's good. I think that they go downhill after that. The movie was remade in 2005. Starred Ryan Reynolds and Melissa George. Now, one thing I do want to mention, if you're a person who likes to go to see where movies were made, you're going to be a little disappointed if you go to see this house, because the original house was remodeled extensively. It was actually physically moved on the lot 90 degrees. And there was another garage built in front of it. And it just, unless you know where you're going to and you find the address and you go there, it doesn't look like the Amityville house very much at all anymore. Those iconic kind of cat-like windows are gone. They're just regular windows now. It doesn't have that gable kind of barn roof setup. It's just kind of a normal roof. There's no dormers on the roof anymore. There's a lot of YouTube channels that go around, and I've seen a few where the people have gone to it. I'm not going to mention the address because I'm kind of big on privacy, and this is probably several generations of homeowners since the movie was made. So if you want to look into it, you can go ahead. Like I said, you can find a fair amount of videos on it, but just don't expect to see the Amityville house when you go to look at this house if you want to go to that filming location. So if in the next month or so you want to pop in the Amityville Horror and take a peek at it, still a worthwhile watch. And if while you're sitting there, some kind of red glowing eyes come up in the window behind you, don't worry. It's just a movie.